Hi, welcome to the HostAfrican, where we discuss web hosting and entrepreneurship and how it relates to business, the individual, and its general role in society. I'm Ashwin, your host. In today's episode, we've got Micaela and Nick, marketing expert and software engineer, and founders of Thrif, South Africa's first Resale-as-a-Service platform. How do you guys do?
Yeah, doing good. Busy as always, I guess, as founders of a new thing would be, but it's a beautiful day in Cape Town, so we can't complain.
I mean, I don't know if it gets any less busy, maybe 10 years down the line. Perhaps you can do a follow-up sometime and find out if that's the case. But can you guys share a bit about your background in marketing and software engineering and how that experience has shaped your approach to starting a business?
Yeah, for sure. I'll start on this one. I guess as you mentioned, I come from a marketing, more specifically digital marketing background. I've worked in a few ad agencies and creative agencies for the past 10 years. And I actually specialized in PPC and paid social media advertising. But I guess in 2017, my perspective kind of shifted and I was looking more at what it would mean to be an entrepreneur. So I started my own side hustle. I still had a full-time job at the time. And I was running an online store selling women's swimwear in Cape Town. And I think that kind of gave me a broader spectrum of skills in terms of e-commerce. So yeah, I think obviously with my background and Nick's background and wanting to do or have this, we had this shared value of wanting to do something for ourselves. Our skill set kind of just combined perfectly, and we feel like, it's working pretty well so far.
Yeah, no, I agree. From my side, I studied computer science at the University of Cape Town, and then went on to work at startups and agencies in Cape Town. So I had the privilege of working at places like Luno, which was really interesting. I then did a stint overseas where I worked for Google, and then came back to South Africa, worked at another company called GoDaddy, but basically was really fortunate to see sort of the spectrum of small scale hustling startups up to corporates that have hundreds of thousands of people, and just everything in between. So that was really beneficial. But as Micaela said, we both had reached a stage in our careers where we'd got a good experience. We figured out our individual sides, but we wanted to combine our skills to do something that we both cared about and that would hopefully make a difference.
Quite an interesting journey, from both of you. I mean, nothing that you would expect if you're looking at it on paper. You wouldn't expect a software engineer or digital marketer's journey to kind of lead them to an online store. Well, maybe marketing a bit. I feel like that it's my perception is at least that you kind of have a skill that's heavily required, right? Software engineering feels kind of like it's operating on the back, not something you really pay attention to, even though it's probably heavily necessary to any sort of online store. On working for Luna though, I think I'll hit you up after our episode to see what coins I can lose money on, but let's leave that for now. Micaela, you mentioned that your journey from marketing to entrepreneurship was driven by a desire to make a bigger impact, right? So how did you manage to align your personal passion for sustainable fashion with the practicalities of building a business? Was there a moment when you knew this was the right direction?
Yeah, so I guess my previous e-commerce store, honestly, at that point, it was more just starting something of my own and just seeing how that would go. And honestly, I came into it quite naively, but I had a lot of support and people just kind of pushing me to go for it. And so I just did. And I think at the time, it wasn't, well, to be transparent, it wasn't sustainability that was top of mind. It was more running my own business, seeing how that would be, seeing how that would be day to day, and hopefully just making enough revenue so that it could become a full-time thing. It never did. I never took the leap to do it full-time. It just kind of like stayed fairly small, and I guess I didn't have as much exposure to the startup scene then as we do now, which has obviously opened us up to a lot more opportunity. But I think, yeah, at the time, I was just importing swimwear from overseas, and I think as times have changed and as we're seeing so many things pop up in terms of sustainability in the last few years, I think it's become more top of mind. And I mean, we do have a passion for fashion. I hate to say that, but it is kind of the truth. But I think with everything going on in the world, we were kind of like, well, why wouldn't we focus on this? And I guess more so than what I did previously on my own previous e-commerce store.
Okay. I want to inquire a bit about your first business more briefly, if you don't mind. Would you say having, I wouldn't say failed attempt, maybe failed is harsh, but having an initial attempt at something and figuring out the ropes, would you say that's a necessity to starting something and kind of getting it mostly right afterwards?
That's a good question. I think definitely, I mean, I came into it with a bit of a background in marketing, and I think marketing is such a vital tool in starting any business. And I also started on social media at a time where social media was still very friendly for businesses to grow and thrive, and I think things have since changed. But I would ultimately say that it did give me confidence to see that actually just starting something isn't maybe as difficult as you would think it is. You just have to start, and then the rest just you figure it out. And I think in doing so, you learn and you grow so much. So starting this was, although this is a much bigger scale and we have much bigger plans for this, for Thrif, but I've learned so much in running my own smaller store that I've utilized so many skills already in Thrif that I maybe previously wouldn't have if I just came from just general PPC. But yeah, I also feel confident in us to really go for it. And we have the passion to be entrepreneurs, but we also have the necessary backgrounds to give us the confidence to grow and get us to where we need to be.
Okay, pretty cool, pretty interesting. Okay, Nick, building a business around sustainability, it's an admirable idea, right? I mean, we obviously all want to try and do our part for the planet and the environment and ourselves and so on. But I mean, not from experience, but I imagine it comes with a lot of challenges compared to just building a regular business, right? How do you ensure your personal values around sustainability remain at the core of your business, even as you scale? Because I mean, again, it's easy to kind of maybe start with an idealistic approach to things, but as challenges arise, it becomes more complicated, or let's say it becomes harder to hold on to those ideals. How do you guys manage that?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Actually, it's something that I honestly ponder quite often. I guess I'll just add that in starting Thrif, it was born of a bit of our own, actually a lot of our own personal shifts in how we viewed our shopping habits. I mean, we both basically started moving more and more towards buying and selling secondhand as a means of trying to do the right thing. And then also really because it is more affordable. It just felt like an option for the future and something that we personally did more and more. That being said, in starting a business and then claiming that it's sustainable versus actually making sure that it is two different things. I think it can be seen perhaps as a bit of a buzzword, It can certainly be, yeah, there can be greenwashing in the mix. It's very much a thing. And we're well aware of that. So in my opinion, to go in with the right intention and to follow through with that and to continue to make choices along the way in our business to ensure that, no, we're not just saying it, but we're actually doing it, has been quite key. It hasn't been easy. I think there would have probably been easier ways to do this and while just saying that it's sustainable. But yeah, very early on, as an example, we made it part of our very early stage MVP that every single item that passes through Thrif would like be insured to be either sold to a new owner or returned to the original owner if it doesn't sell, or on their request, responsibly recycled or donated on their behalf. And we didn't have necessarily the skills and know-how to make sure that something is actually responsibly recycled and donated. And that's actually when we started trying to partner with companies, and we're really fortunate to get a partnership with an amazing company called Clothes to Good. They have been incredible mentors to us, but they're already doing this genuinely at scale and with hearts of gold, really, just intentions that are truly aligned with doing something good. So I think we've tried to stick to that as well on our side as best we can. You do, I think, when getting caught up in the startup space, there's quite a lot of hype. There's quite a lot of raise capital, build big business, go out there and just be successful no matter what and just grow. But I think we're trying to find the balance between that while still actually ensuring that we're doing the right thing along the way.
Okay. What would you guys then say? Your view or perspective on sustainability is not changed, but it kind of evolved as you undertook this project, based on where you started. Because just thinking about what you said now, it's the I'm interpreting that as it's you. I mean, you started something for a good cause, right? But you don't know you aren't too aware of how deep it actually goes. But as you get involved more and you try to do things the right way, no greenwashing, you kind of figure out that there's a lot more layers to this. Would you say you guys feel like sustainable troopers, carrying the banner and so forth now compared to where you started?
I think for me, it's changed. I think our perception of reading a label when something says it's sustainable and just believing everything that we read, or believing that something is good because it appears to be sustainable. However, I think we've learned that actually following through with that is quite difficult. It probably does turn some businesses away from it. It's not glamorous sometimes. But I guess the point is that if you do want to do it, and if you do believe in it, then that shouldn't really matter. But yeah, I think for us, staying true to those values has been important. Not going in assuming we are the sustainability, know-it-alls, and rather just going in with an open mind, but with a good intention and learning from others who have been doing this in this space a lot longer than we have, has been quite key, because I think it's taught us so much about maybe what we went in, thinking and intending to do, and where we are now.
Yeah, I think I'll add to that. We did, I suppose, going into Thrif, we were quite specific in our ideation and the certain things that we wanted to achieve. And not only did we have these objectives for ourselves in mind, but we worked with a company that helped us solidify our concept before starting our MVP. And I think at that stage, definitely we knew that just in terms of South Africa, we'd be able to make an impact. But I think, as you say, we definitely have done or now been exposed to like almost a global level side of sustainability. So things like textile waste and landfill dumpings in Africa specifically, and how bad that is, and how people are just really struggling to get rid of waste in terms of textiles, and how there are enough clothes on the planet already to clothe the next 6 generations. So it's those types of things that I think have come afterwards that have been a bit of a shock factor for us, but also so motivating for us to continue, knowing that globally there is a means to make an impact here as well as nationally.
I want to change gear a bit and maybe inquire a bit about the ideology behind this. So sustainability, I'd say it's growing compared to maybe where it was 20 years ago, but it's my perspective is that it's not always the easiest to market compared to fast fashion, right? Like especially when fast fashion is such a dominant force. So how do you guys approach marketing thrift in a way that resonates with people who might be hesitant or unaware of the importance of sustainable fashion?
Yeah, so I guess we did go into this knowing that there would probably be multiple markets to tap into. One being people looking for more conscious buying habits and wanting to make a sustainable impact. But also on the other side of that is people who are price conscious and buying for affordability. And then what we also found is people buy for quality. And obviously with secondhand, there is a bit of a stigma around the quality of certain products. And I guess a lot of people have been burnt and maybe had bad experiences in the past on what currently exists in terms of like peer-to-peer marketplaces. But I think we wanted people to, or we expected and hoped that the market for sustainability was bigger. But I think we are still getting there, especially in South Africa, and I think it is growing. But for now, I would say we've really almost shifted focus to say, if you buy from us, it is super affordable. It is the same price. I mean, it is the same quality as buying something new, except it's half the price. It's like 50% to 70% less than what you would buy if you bought it new. And in that way, you are making an impact and you are choosing to be sustainable in your buying habits. And I think, so we've kind of used that approach to tick off all the boxes. But again, I mean, if you follow us on social media, we are always sharing like why it's a good thing to be boycotting the likes of fast fashion and what that really means for the environment when you are supporting these brands that are basically selling you plastic that is ultimately could cause you cancer kind of thing. So we try and make people very self-aware through our platforms in terms of that specifically.
Something I want to mention on the stigma, but before I get the stigma that you mentioned, before I get to that, I put the documentary you guys mentioned in your doc that had like some information on you guys. The Buy Now, the one on Netflix. I put it on my watch list, so it's that's definitely gonna get into that this week and see what see if I can get a portion of the knowledge or perspective that you guys have going into this. But on that stigma that you mentioned, right? That was actually my next question. Is like how do you navigate the cultural sentiment that people often associate with secondhand shopping and like the stigma of lower quality, like especially in the fashion industry, because I mean, I guess myself being in marketing as well, like when I was considering how you would approach your business, I mean, you basically, at least from my perspective, fighting a cultural idea. That's, I suppose, one of the challenges of your marketing. I mean, you're on going along with what's common. Like how do you navigate that?
Yeah, another very good question. Actually, that is pretty much like one of our core goals or missions, is to try and change that perception. That's a tricky thing to do though, because it's very multifaceted as to why it exists in the first place. I mean, we love buying and selling secondhand. We've been doing it now for ages. That entire industry is probably one of the most wholesome things that is going on right now, like especially here in Cape Town. But we still believe that in order for resales of buying secondhand to truly have a mainstream impact and thus truly have an impact on, the environmental impact that buying new all the time is having, it needs to enter the mainstream. So it's our goal to basically improve the entire user experience of both buying and selling secondhand. So Thrif's basically mission is to, on the selling side, make it highly convenient for someone who has things that they don't need that would otherwise just be lying around gathering dust or going to waste. And on the buying side is to make the process of buying secondhand feel as good, if not better, than buying new from somewhere like Takealot, Amazon, etc. That's sort of why we chose this managed marketplace model where we oversee everything through from collection of items to strict quality control to photography that's professional and consistent and gives you all the info that you need, to listings that aren't like one word that just says sweater. What is it? What's the size? Like, what is the condition? Like, people need this information in order to, purchase something, let alone purchase something online. And then to go on and say like, well, you can pay securely with your card. You can do a return or get customer support. And that you have this peace of mind to know that by buying secondhand through Thrif and hopefully through others in the future as well, because this is a bigger problem than just us, but at least for now through us, that you have the peace of mind, which is going to then be the final piece. It's sustainable, it's affordable, but now you also know it's fully quality checked, that if you're not happy with it, you can return it. And that's, at the end of the day, there's someone in the middle who cares about this and who is there to oversee this process. And that's basically what we're hoping. And it is taking time, obviously, because changing perceptions takes time, but we're hoping that in proving that to people who use our service, whether they're a buyer or a seller, that they start to see that this could be the way that we're going to be buying and selling things in the future. And that's maybe that with a little more standardization, perhaps, or consistency, that might happen.
Yeah, and I think another thing, there was an article in the Daily Maverick this past week that spoke about Gen Z and how the majority, I think it was like 58% of Gen Z globally, are choosing to buy secondhand first before looking at new options. So I suppose like from a generational perspective, we can slowly start seeing buying secondhand like losing its old stigma in that it used to be, maybe targeted towards more rural areas or places where, new access to new clothing wasn't as great as it was for middle to upper class homes or people. And I think really that is starting to shift in Gen Z. So that's quite an exciting opportunity for us as well.
Besides it being good news for you guys business-wise, I think it's good news for sustainability as an ideology as a whole, right? Something I wanted to mention, Nick, that you brought up the website, and I was looking around, and I suppose this is kind of irrelevant, but I think it's really sleekly designed. It looks really good, nice, easy to navigate. The photos is something I wanted to bring up as well. But it really looks like you guys put in the effort. Makes a big difference. I think if the having a smooth user experience like that would definitely help the shift in making it less stigmatized. I was a bit I'm thinking I was synonym because I don't think I should use this word in the podcast, but say a bit maybe stringent on the user experience, because I started about a year and a half ago. I started learning JS and front end dev. So just like visiting websites, just you start looking for things. You look at things a bit differently compared to someone who's not doing any sort of dev work, right? And I mean, I was criticizing and judging as I went along. Not much to judge or criticize, but basically, I was very chuffed with the experience. It was really smooth, really simple, not too much to draw your attention away from what you were actually there to do, which I think was quite good.
No, firstly, thank you. It's you're definitely speaking to our at least one of our passions here. I mean, we have an amazing software engineer, Calvin, and product designer Danelle on our team, who really put like a lot of hard work into that. But I will say that I think just personally, I don't want to talk about myself too much. Although I studied software engineering and worked for quite a while as a software engineer, honestly speaking, I almost dipped into the UX UI product design side of things on multiple occasions. I was a little bit more of a hybrid. And honestly, it's just been a passion of mine since day one. And I think part of that comes from the fact that, like, if we're building digital experiences for human beings, then it must be nice to use. Otherwise, what's the point? And that applies to Thrif, but really it applies to any digital product, in my opinion. And again, as you say, like, you're not going to solve the problem we're trying to solve, which is to encourage more people to purchase secondhand things online if the online experience is bad. Like, it just doesn't even make sense. So yeah, I think I appreciate the kind words and really open to any and all criticism. You're looking at some major nitpickers over here when it comes to UX and stuff. But yeah, we really feel that that's a key part of all of this. And yeah, we're really stoked to start, releasing new stuff and evolving things, but keeping that simplicity at its core.
So, I mean, you mentioned greenwashing earlier, right? How do you differentiate Thrif from businesses that might claim sustainability without truly embracing it? Like, at a business level, maybe looking at costs. At what stage do you decide that a particular sustainable practice is not worth, I don't want to say the effort, but it's not viable for your business, and you'll have to try to find an alternative, or maybe forego that particular aspect of the production line? Like, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, that's also another great question. They just keep coming. I think for Thrif, I personally see it as a two-part problem. I think firstly, if you look at our core offering, which is really just to say, you as a seller, we're going to make it as convenient as possible for your items to get to us. We're going to give them a chance to sell, and then we're going to ensure from day one that those items will never go to waste. It will truly be circular. They're either going to go back to you if they don't sell, or they're going to clothes to good if you choose that. And clothes to good is ensuring that it is never going to waste either. So there's our core offering of saying that, like, give all items a chance. They might sell, they might not. Obviously, if we need to sustain ourselves financially, it'd be great if they did, but realistically they won't. So make sure that the items that don't are actually circularly handled. The second part, though, is everything Thrif does internally to make this happen, and whether our internal practices, which I guess you as a customer or seller, you don't necessarily see. So when collecting your goods, are the couriers using sustainable practices? When storing your goods, is our warehouse and operations there, are we making sustainable choices there? simple things like, I guess what power sources we use, what fuel we use, all of that. So I'd say our core offering, we at the moment genuinely believe that we're doing something actually sustainable, but we're trying to slowly introduce more things into our operations that make it end-to-end sustainable, so that in order to even do this, that the things that we rely on are hopefully also sustainable themselves. That part is tricky. That part takes longer because as a growing new startup, you do have to take some shortcuts sometimes and just do some things to just get it off the ground. But it's very much our intention to get there in the future. Want to add anything?
I think as well, very similarly to what Nick mentioned, but also just sustainable labor practices. Like in this space, we hear so much about, the labor conditions being so terrible and people being underpaid. And we obviously maybe went into this knowing, not thinking about it too much to avoid too much stress early on, but kind of realizing that at scale, we are going to need to employ a lot of people and to assist with the physical operations of this type of business model. And I think we're really holding true to ourselves in that we want that to be a good experience for people working for Thrif. We want them to be paid, above minimum wage at the very least. And we want to make that a good experience. And I think right now we're a small team of only 7, but we have garnered this really good experience for our employees so far, and we just kind of continue and hope to do that at a much bigger scale eventually.
Okay, I mean, I think, at least from my perspective, I think that's a fair approach, because I mean, nobody gets everything right right off the bat. I mean, it's obviously a process and adjustments as you go along to find the optimal way of doing something. So, I mean, I guess with my question, I was really trying to ascertain how you guys started and how you guys were going about getting that to that optimal stage, because any of our other entrepreneurs who's starting out or want to start a business, they might be thinking that I need to get everything perfectly lined up before I start doing this thing, right? But kind of like I think it was Micaela said earlier, it's a lot easier to start than you might think, and well, I guess now as well, like kind of just get started and you'll optimize as you go. So thank you, I appreciate that answer, putting that into perspective. I want to talk a bit about your guys' partnership, right? So I haven't started a business, but I imagine that finding the right business partner is pretty crucial to a partnership, right? So, how did you guys identify each other as the perfect fit for building Thrif together? Like, what qualities do you think are essential in a business partner, especially when your skills complement each other in such a significant way? Because I mean, just a bit of a side, but when I discovered that you guys were a marketing expert and software engineer, it kind of sounded like, this two doesn't go together. It sounds like some Netflix series that's gonna have this weird twist about how things eventually work out when it doesn't really make sense, So how did that work?
Well, I guess it's worth noting up front that we are a couple, so there's that. Definitely helped with the introduction. But yeah, I guess like we've been living and operating together, not working together for multiple years prior to us doing this. And yes, we had our own careers and our own paths that we were on, and different skills that then eventually came together. But we actually took on some pretty big projects prior to us starting this business, as one example, we renovated a house together, and that was not a small one. It was pretty huge, in fact, and we'd never done that before. So we went into that completely naive in many ways, but very, sure that we needed to do this, we wanted to do this. And it was tough. It took over a year. It was completely new territory for us, but we came out of the other end of it with a project that we'd completed, which we're really proud of. We worked together. It I suppose in some almost unintended way gave us an experience of being in a high pressure, almost unknown environment off the bat. And it was actually shortly thereafter, some might say that's crazy, but shortly thereafter when we decided to actually work together. No rest, I suppose. But I think it came together quite naturally. Actually, we knew what we each were good at. We knew where our strengths were. We knew that we complemented one another, and then to top it all off, we had this shared passion for thrifting, buying and selling secondhand, and it gave us direct experience into the pain points that unfortunately were coming with that, and the motivation to say, okay, let's try this different way. It's not going to be easy. We know some things, but we actually don't know most things. But perhaps the experiences of working together in the past on big unknown things at least gave us this confidence that like we could do this as well. And so far, really good.
Yeah, and I think as well, I mean, obviously after renovating our home, the space kind of changed, and we found ourselves with either too much clothes or too much furniture, and we went through the process of needing to use the current platforms that exist to try and sell what we had, and it, I guess, wasn't as smooth an experience, and it took a lot of effort. And I think in doing that as well, we were kind of like, wow, I mean, we've traveled, we've been very privileged to travel quite a bit together, and we've just seen the options that are available in like Europe or like in first world countries to do this with a lot more convenience and ease and trust. And I think in having that experience as well, we kind of thought, oh, surely there's a better way to do this that doesn't, I mean, we've now taken on the work of everyone else looking for a more convenient way. So I guess it's just doubled the work for us in the end. But we honestly do think that as South Africans, we do deserve something that just feels as easy as what's available overseas for things like this. Because, I mean, kind of everyone at some point is probably going to face a similar frustration the same way we did.
As entrepreneurs, like, what do you think the most important thing is to agree with on your business partner early on in the journey? Like, is there a particular moment when you both realized you were on the same page and about the vision for Thrif? Was this maybe while you guys were traveling, and also while you guys were trying to maybe declutter your space after the renovation? I guess what I'm trying to find is what was the sort of like a light bulb aha type of moment, or was it just an accumulation of moments over time that's like, you know what, this is a recurring problem, let's find a solution for this?
Yeah, so I think there might have even been like a couple questions in there, but with regards to, I guess, finding that balance and making it work, like I guess we definitely do know that being open to changes and pivots is quite important. Thrif didn't start out, to be fully transparent, as an idea exactly the way it is now, and that required us to, as we were going along, look at who else is out there, what else is available to consumers, and what is the actual problem, and can we solve that in a different way. But it did require us to be open to pivoting and changing in the early stages when it was still new and fresh and like more of an idea phase. And in doing so, like having us both openly communicate with each other and feel the autonomy to be like, I think we need to change, or I think this is not working, or that honesty and communication as it's going along, and not just going with it just because that's what you chose.
Yeah, I think, again, going through the frustrations of using the service that we were looking for and hoping it would be more convenient than it was, I think the build-up of frustration there was the main thing, like kind of using these platforms and thinking to ourselves, I'm sure we could maybe make a better experience than this. Like,
Yeah.
there must be an easy way to do this. And I think, like, yeah, it does help that we are very similar and we have very similar interests. And obviously, having thrifted for quite a long time, we kind of took that with this and thought, let's see if we can improve this. And I think, as I mentioned, like going through like an ideation phase and working with a company called Specno to really validate our concepts helped us see it as more of like a just start and things will change as they go. And the best way to do it is just to get it out there and then seeing how people respond to your service and seeing what you can do to improve it for the likes of consumers in South Africa. So I think, yeah, it all started from like personal frustration. And I know that that's probably something that a lot of entrepreneurs think, they face a pain point, they want to fix it, and then they try and go for that. And honestly, I think our situation was very similar. I mean, yeah, I guess how we started in general is a whole nother topic, because that was also quite it was the wild, wild west for a second. But in terms of just, yeah, where it started and just being open to change, as Nick said, and having those values early on, I think really helped us get to where we are now.
And just to add one more point to that is that, like, what actually ended up happening is that when we first went into this, we thought that and going back to what you're talking about around the digital user experience and the flow and the design, we thought that we could introduce something similar to South Africa that already exists, like a Facebook marketplace or a Yaga, but just with better UX, and that would solve the issues that people buying and selling secondhand were facing. But was the realization that actually the end-to-end user experience is not just a UX problem. It's actually a bit more than that. There's a physical nature to this that also needs to be, part of that needs to be addressed too. And so that pivot of going from this idea of like just maybe a better peer-to-peer marketplace, from that to a managed marketplace, which a lot more work for us, which, as Mick said, early days of that were quite wild. But I think, that light bulb moment was again one of those things where, because we can speak so frankly and honestly with each other, and we're just like, we're not actually going to be solving the problems that we're facing by doing this. We're going to put another nice coat of paint on it, but it may not actually do what we're intending to. So we changed, and that was a good thing.
Having both marketing and tech experience, like, what advice would you give to someone who's looking to start a business, especially in a space like sustainability or e-commerce?
I guess from a marketing perspective, don't expect that you're going to have a huge budget to work with. You really have to try and figure out ways to work your marketing with a small budget. I guess, like, we're very lucky to be in a space where everyone is very supportive, and everyone who is kind of shares the same values about sustainability offer favors and just want to make a difference in some way without needing a huge budget. So that's been pretty great for us from a marketing standpoint. But again, even just like finding out about your podcast, like someone told us about it and encouraged us to maybe reach out to you guys, or like we've been to multiple founder community events, and the people there, like, you meet other founders and everyone just supports each other and everyone knows what they're going through, especially when there's a sustainability link. I think, just I think the best thing you can do at this early stage when your budget is limited from a marketing perspective is just to get your name out there and speak about it and try and surround yourself with like-minded people who are all going to maybe mention it or refer you to a friend or maybe talk about you online or, whatever they can do to help, because people are actually not all bad and people will help. So I think that's something to bear in mind from marketing, but I guess
Yeah, I mean, from tech side, I would say the big lesson coming into this has been that in actual fact, marketing is probably more important than tech. It's firstly, I'd say, you don't have to go into this expecting to build the perfect thing from the get-go. And in actual fact, geez, we're living in a time now where it's easier than ever to put something out there, especially something like an e-commerce store, where there's, really tools and platforms that are designed to make that fairly easy for someone with a business idea to get started on. I still think a tech background is important, but it's becoming one like ever easier to do that, which in turn makes marketing, your brand, your mission, and your message and how you deliver that to consumers like even more important. So I think a big lesson for me has been that like you can build it, but people will not necessarily come. Like you actually need to get the word out there, and you need to actually persistently, like it's not a one-shot thing. Whereas sometimes software engineering can feel like this isolated thing. You build it, you deploy it, you do it. It's like all quite internal. But when you get it out there into the world and dealing with people and the competitive nature of things going on right now, it's tough. And so it needs time, it needs effort, and it really, I would say, again, is probably more important than the tech itself.
I like to think of marketing as localized propaganda for whatever your cause is, right? Because I mean, you kind of just like pushing your agenda, ideology, product, service, whatever it is. The I guess with you guys, localized propaganda has, I'm guessing, some stigma to it, because I mean, propaganda, the word doesn't necessarily sound that good. But I guess with you guys, it's the ideology or message or idea behind what you guys are doing is mostly positive, as far as I can tell. I mean, like, who doesn't want things to be more sustainable or there to be a better outlook or outcome for just us and the planet going forward, right? So that was just a bit of a tangent, but so before I wrap up, you guys, I have some quick questions that I want to ask you guys, like rapid fire style. So I have about 5, and I'll ask, and then just the first answer that comes to mind. You could either both answer or one of you. I'll leave that up to you guys. So I'll start with the first one. What's your go-to productivity hack?
Do you have one?
Yeah. I think time management is absolutely critical.
Put everything in your calendar. Everything, no matter what it is, put it in your calendar.
Yeah. Founding something has, been a little bit chaotic at times, and managing that and feeling productive often rather comes from just balancing those things instead of like trying to do it all at once or getting overwhelmed.
Okay. What's the most surprising skill you've had to learn as business owners?
So what skill haven't we learned?
Yeah.
Feels. I think very early on we had to be very familiar with photography, and product photography specifically, writing product descriptions and becoming aware of fabrication and what materials actually are sustainable, what aren't, and how to like really reflect that in like a product description or a product listing. We've had to build an inventory management system in a fully functioning warehouse. We don't come from a warehousing or quality management, quantity management,
Quality
control background. So we had to implement something pretty fast to make sure that we were on top of, accepting hundreds of items.
Okay. What's your biggest pet peeve in the world of business?
Sure. I have a controversial answer, but I'm worried to say.
Uh-oh.
Okay, well, there's a couple. Firstly, I think, if intention to be sustainable is not the same as the action to be sustainable. So following through. I also think at the moment, the world of business is a little too much driven by hype. Just going to put that out there. And there's certain things in tech that I think are being hyped way too hard, even though we're using them right now, but just in a little more measured real world sense. And if you know, you know.
I don't think I know, but I do spend a lot of time on Reddit's subreddit programmer humor, and apparently vibe coding seems to be all the hype at the moment. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to, maybe AI, but yeah, if you could give one piece of advice to someone just starting in sustainable business, what would it be?
I think starting, finding yourself a good partnership and someone who maybe has knowledge in the space that can mentor you and guide you. And then also listening to your customer base. If someone reaches out to you with a sustainability question, maybe follow up and ask them if you can ask them more questions, and just try and familiarize yourself with where South African or whichever market you're operating in, where those consumers themselves are at based on sustainability, and meet them there if you can.
Okay, and last one. If you guys had to describe Thrif in one word, what would it be?
One word.
Yeah, one word.
Future.
Yeah, that's a good one. Happy with that.
I thought you guys would have gone with sustainable. Future sounds optimistic, I suppose. Okay, well, Nick and Micaela, it's been fun getting to know you guys and what you do. That about sums up our time together. As usual, for all your hosting needs, feel free to check out our website. We're also on Facebook and LinkedIn. If you're into that kind of thing, you can find Micaela and Nick and the platform online, and check out their store page for how to get started. Really a revolutionary idea here in SA, I think. First time I've encountered this myself. If you have any questions or topics you'd like to hear about, feel free to reach out to us. We'll have the details of today's episode in the show notes. Thanks for listening to the HostAfrican. Goodbye.